Hi everybody, I'm Jay Reed. We're going to look at the Porsche Taycan today, and a little bit later we'll also get into an Audi E-Tron. And I'm going to answer two questions for you. One, is now a good time to get into an electric vehicle? And two, what are they like to live with?
A huge thank you to Porsche Danbury and Audi Danbury here in Danbury, Connecticut. Both the cars I'm driving today are for sale, so if you're in the market for a car like this, give them a call. You won't be disappointed.
Electric cars then. They're a bit of a mystery to me, I must be honest. And in researching this video, I've learnt a lot. And it's been easy to ignore electric cars, right? Because they're for the innovators, the early adopters, if you like, and not mainstream. They're not ready for the mainstream yet, right? Well, our first clue ought to be that Audi and Porsche have invested in a spectacular way in electric cars. So we should sit up and listen. But here's the thing, how do they work? Is there a network of charging stations that we can easily use? Is this going to disrupt our lives in an effort to be modern? Or is this just going to slide into our lives, having made the consumer experience the paramount thing that Porsche are really going after? So let's take a look. So what is the Porsche Taycan? Is it just another luxurious sedan? I mean, a man on a galloping horse could easily mistake this for a Panamera. Or is it something a bit more special than that? I mean, it hasn't got the sound of a wonderful flat six engine, but has Porsche injected enough Porsche into this to be a proper Porsche? Or is this a cynical marketing ploy just to attract new and interesting customers? So then, the Taycan 4S, let's get into it and see what this car is like. This particular car has been spec'd extremely well in this carmine red with leather interior in black. Base price of this car, $103,800, but this particular one has been spec'd very well indeed and has an overall price of $139,800. A couple of notable options that it's been spec'd with. It does have the Performance Battery Plus, which means that it's got a bigger battery which gives it a longer range and more performance. So this particular car in fact puts out 562 bhp on overboost, which I think we're going to find when we get out on the road is something quite spectacular. And it does make you wonder what the Turbo S would be like if this is merely the 4S. So onto the interior of the car. Well, how do you know if the thing is switched on? I mean, with a normal car, right, you'd be able to hear it. What about this car? Well, firstly, you're greeted with pretty much blank screen, so that's a pointer. However, if you want to turn it on, it has keyless go, so the key is in my pocket, and just to the left of this steering wheel, there is in fact an on-off button, which if I put my foot on the brake and push, it comes into life. But still, no noise. But you can turn on an electric sports sound. This is an optional extra, and you'll hear it when we go out for a drive. And when I engage drive on the little gear stick down here on the right, to the right of the steering wheel, just by pushing it down, can you hear that space age sound outside? That is the sound of an electric car with electric sport sound, which I can turn off if I want, and it makes just a little bit of a difference. Not quite so noisy, but if you are out manoeuvring in your Porsche Taycan and there are children around, then maybe you want to just put that noise on just to let people know that you're reversing around. Otherwise, the dash is very well styled. You get this lovely piano black going from one edge to the other, leather stitching on the front here, which just finishes off beautifully, and the seats are, as you can see, supportive. These are the 18-way adaptive memory seats, top of the range seats here. Now, it's an odd thing to show you, but I do want to show you the ventilation system in this car. As you can see, there are 3 or 4 of them, 2 on either side of the steering wheel and 2 in the middle. And these things don't move. So you're asking, how do you direct air to your face or to your body, wherever it needs to be? Well, look in here. You wiggle these around and they will go wherever you want them to go, and you will hear a whirring. And that's the internals of those vents moving around to where you want them to be. You can have it focused as well if you want it to go onto certain parts of you, or diffused, and it automatically blows it around the car. So is this a car that you can carry 4 adults in? Yes, it is. In fact, I'm 6 foot, and you can see I've got a good 3 inches or so, I would say, in front of the seat, behind the seat in front of me, in the place that I would have it if I was the passenger. So this is quite a comfortable car. It slopes down at the back, which is what makes it more of a sporting, a sports car than maybe a luxurious sedan if you're after something like that. And in the back I have just enough headroom. There's an inch or two above my head, and of course I do have this lovely screen above me which is letting lots of light in, and were I to be going along it would be quite an experience in the back here, I think. You can specify a third seat in the back here if you want. I'm not sure how much space there would be for a third adult were you to do that. Remembering this is a sports car, if you position it like that, then that's not so bad. Otherwise, you might be a bit cramped if there were 3 adults in the back here. I must say I really do enjoy the sort of stormtrooper styling of the car from the back and from the rear. Inside the boot or the trunk, you push a button which is quite old-fashioned, and you get a reasonable sized trunk. You can see the charger that it comes with for the car, for the charging at home. Reasonable size, not massive, and those seats do drop forward if you need them to. And in the front of the car, of course, there is no engine, so there is additional space underneath the hood. There you are. I put my hand in there, you can sort of see how big that is. Big enough for a few squashy bags, I think. All right, out in the Porsche Taycan 4S, 562 horsepower. I have my electric sport sound on, and I'm feeling a bit like I'm driving a spaceship, actually. The sound that this thing makes, if I slow down and speed up again, there's nobody behind me, and I'll just accelerate without talking. Now that sounds like it would be irritating. It's not. It's really cool, and I really like it. The other thing I've got switched on is my recuperation, my regenerating energy. So every time I brake or come off the throttle, it transfers energy back into the battery, which is class leading in this particular car. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive round to show you how this thing charges. Now the salesman, the nice salesman that gave me this car, has told me how to do it, and honestly it really couldn't be any easier. This car comes with 3 years of 30-minute charges at a fast charging point. Now, considering it takes 22 minutes to get it up to 80%, that is all the fuel that you're going to need, all the power, I should say. It's not really fuel, is it? I've got to start thinking a new way. For 3 years. And actually, even when you charge it at home overnight without using that, the 3-year deal, it costs $7 to fill it up with electricity. So, we shouldn't really worry too much about the costs of running this thing from a fuel perspective, or from an electric perspective at least. But 562 horses, let's see what that feels like. Oh my God, that's fast! Holy cow! And it's instant as well. Absolutely instant. There is no lag that you would get with a turbo car, or even with a car with a combustion engine which has a torque curve which peaks at certain revs. This thing is a flying machine. Now, what if I put it into sport chassis mode, and let's put it into sport drive mode, and let's see how that feels, and go through a very similar exercise. Slow down a bit, and 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, that's fast! Holy cow! Again, that's even more instant than it was before. Now that I'm in sport mode,
Sport Plus mode I should say, it is waiting to go. It's stiffened up the ride a bit. The steering feels a little bit harder as well, but by no means is this a harsh ride at all. It equates very similar to a 911, I would say. And actually I think we've reached a definition here. This is not a sports sedan, you know, luxurious sports sedan. It is a sports car that happens to have 4 doors and an electric motor, and it does that extremely well. Let me just get past this car because it gives me an excuse to put my foot down. I mean, it's just effortless. It's one of the fastest cars I've ever driven, no question. There's a ludicrous amount of power here on tap, but it feels very, very, very good. A very solid, well-built car. And super quiet, of course, right? I mean, this has a very low drag coefficient. I think it's something like 0.22. So it slips through the air, and of course it's electric, so I can actually hear myself very easily, and conversations are very straightforward. So to show you how easy it is to charge the Porsche Taycan, release the flap, open this. This is to allow you, these 2 ones here are to allow you for DC charging, which are the ones you'd find at the shopping mall or something, not in your garage. You'd only be using the AC ones up here for your garage. You go to the machine, you would normally tap where those 4 holes are to tell the machine that you've paid already. Don't forget you get 3 years paid up front with Porsche. You release the socket, the plug, back to the socket, and then simply you push this in until it clicks. That is now charging. And then inside the car it shows you that it is in fact charging. Meanwhile, over at Audi, we shouldn't really compare these 2 cars because they're very different. One is a sports car with stormtrooper styling and oodles of power, and one is a relatively conservatively styled SUV that Audi customers would recognise as an Audi immediately. And I say that as a good thing. Audi produces extremely high quality cars, so the only thing that binds these 2 cars are the fact that they are powered electrically. And inside, I think if you were an Audi owner, you'd find this very, very familiar. Very high quality materials, very stylish, but nothing too avant-garde. Just because it's an electric car does not mean it should not be an Audi. And like Porsche's electric sports sound, this car has its own growl when it's switched into either drive or reverse. Take a listen. Otherwise, when you get in the car, you are greeted by blank screens, which, when you push the start-stop button, changes and everything bursts into life. Even a little symphony there to wake you up and greet you into the car. Now this one is an SUV, so there's a lot more headroom in the back here than there was in the Taycan. I've got this seat how I would have it if I was driving. There's an inch, not much more, so there's not a lot more space for my knees compared to the Taycan, but you know, we shouldn't be really comparing these 2 cars because that's a sports car and this is an SUV. And inside here there is in fact plenty of space for 3 adults to sit with some comfort in the back. Plenty of width in this car to be able to do that, and you don't have the sloping rear roofline as well in order to get those 3 people in, so a family could be accommodated very nicely in this car. And same deal in the trunk. There is plenty of space in the back here. Goes up electrically, of course, and as you can then see, tons of space to get everything you might need. So this, for a family with dogs maybe, or a long journey with suitcases, is going to take care of you very well indeed. So out in the Audi E-Tron, and the first thing that hits you is that Audi have built
an Audi. This is exactly like other Audis I've driven of a similar age and type, and instantly you feel as if you're in an Audi. Now, why do I say that? Because of course it's an Audi. They haven't tried too hard to be avant-garde. They know their customers, they know what their customers like, and they have created something that their customers are genuinely going to like. It doesn't matter that it's got an electric motor in it. In fact, it's got two. It doesn't matter that it hasn't got a V8, a V6, a diesel, a gas engine. This is an Audi, and the quality and the style is exactly what you would expect. And it is super smooth. Man, it's smooth. I just drift along and it goes away from the lights without any fuss at all. It is a very relaxing place to be. This is even quieter than the Porsche. We started this video by asking two questions, didn't we? Is now a good time to buy an electric car, and are they easy to use? Will they slip into my lifestyle without any disruption? Well, I have to say on the first question, now is a very good time to buy based on the quality of these two cars, and secondly, the amount of investment that Audi and Porsche have put into them. It's a good sign for the future, and I see these as being cars that will be here to stay. On the second question, I don't think charging these cars even disrupts us even slightly. I think if you're able to plan your journey well ahead, and these cars help you do that, then I think you will be quids in. I think this will be quite an easy car to use, either this one or this one over here, and I don't think there'll be any disruption at all. So thank you very much indeed for watching. If you're still with me at this end of the video, please give me a like. It helps the channel to grow and rise up the rankings. Also, I'd love to have you along as a subscriber. Please click that subscribe button and join me for the ride. There are plenty more videos like this coming along, and there may be one or two that you haven't seen as well in my collection that I've already done. Otherwise, thanks very much indeed for watching.